Hi, parents and students. Today is Tuesday, September 8th. We did not have school yesterday. So today we started off with attendance, and I had a few people share that were not able to share it last week. And we moved straight into our Your Turn practice book. And you can write in this book. And we turn to page 1. So if you did not catch up, please pause it right now. Try to make it. And you can finish up what we worked on. The bottom 3 were for homework. Now, what I wanted you to do is practice not only, so use a word from the box to answer each question. Then use the word in a sentence. The sentence you're using is just restating the question, because restating the question is extremely important, and we need to get that skill down. These are all our vocabulary words from last week and this week, right? So number 1, what can you become if you study often? So we talked about our vocabulary words, about what would make sense, and we came up with educated. So educated is our answer, but we want to write it in a complete sentence while restating the question. So we took turns. Students would restate the question, and then some students would give me the answer. So, what can you become if you study often? If you study often, you become educated. Now, you need to restate. We don't want to just put educated. We need a complete sentence. That is what we're practicing. Number 2, what is another word for hurt? We restated the question. Another word for hurt is ached. And let me go to a tricky one. Our tricky one was number 5. If someone caused others to take action, what did you do? Well, our answer is inspire. So I said if you are walking with a friend and there's trash on the ground, your friend picks up the trash. They may cause you to take action. That action is you also pick up trash off the ground. So they actually inspired you to do something good. Now, restating this question, you may need to put your answer in the beginning of your sentence, like we did here. So if someone caused others to take action, what did they do? Someone who inspires others causes people to take action. So what we did is use the same. So someone, and we added who inspires instead of caused, because we're using the synonym, which is our answer. And then we just continue. Others causes people to take action. So we just moved it over. We actually moved it over a bit. We didn't take it out, so excuse me. So complete page 1. Again, pause if you need to. You didn't have your book during class. Then we moved on to Woof. Our story of Woof and our graphic organizer. So I finished reading the story. Now, if you want to review, we reviewed it during class. So if you want to review, go back into the studio in Canvas or my YouTube channel, and it has every video that I've ever sent to you guys or posted into Canvas. So I will read the last 2 pages. Ding dong, rang the wolf at the farm gate. He lay down on the grass, made himself comfortable, took out his new book, and began to read. He read with confidence and passion, and the pig, the cow, and the duck all listened and said not one word. Each time he finished a story, the pig, the duck, and the cow asked if he would please read them another. So the wolf read on, story after story. One minute he was Little Red Riding Hood, the next a genie emerging from a lamp, and then a swashbuckling pirate. is so much fun, said the duck. He's a master, said the pig. Why don't you join us on our picnic today, offered the cow. So they are getting along. And so they all had a picnic, the pig, the duck, the cow, and the wolf. They lay in the tall grass and told stories all afternoon long. We should all become storytellers, said the cow suddenly. We could travel around the world, added the duck. We can start tomorrow morning, said the pig. The wolf stretched in the grass. He was happy to have such wonderful friends. So we talked about our predictions. In the middle of the story, we predicted two things. The students said the animals would become friends, and the animals read together. We put a smiley face. They didn't need to write this. We just discussed that our predictions were correct. And it makes it more fun to know whether you were right or there was a turn in the story and you were a little off. But it's fun to make guesses, which is another word for predictions. From there, we took out our journal and we turned to our graphic organizer. I'm going to kind of just go over what we discussed. We discussed how in the beginning of the story he was hungry, frustrated, mean, mad, tired, and he wanted to find some food. So he tried to bully the farm animals. And that was in the beginning of the story. Well, they thought he wasn't educated enough. They are readers, and they were reading together. So he wanted to go to school and learn how to read as well, because he had never had anyone treat him the way that the farm animals treated him. So the middle of the story, he went to school. He bought his own books from the library. He read, he practiced, he was determined, which means he wasn't going to stop. It was hard, but he wouldn't give up. Then at the end of the story, so this organizer is, how does the wolf change throughout the story? The beginning, he's mean, hungry, tired. The middle, he's determined. He's going to work hard. And then at the end, he is happy. He's nice. He's educated. He's a good reader. He's loving. So he changes drastically from the beginning to the end of the story. Then we were talking about how the setting. So remember, the setting is where or when a story takes place. We could say when during the day, because it was daylight throughout the whole story, but we don't really know. So we'll focus on the where. And we flipped through the whole story. And we found out in the beginning, he started off in a town. That's when he was hungry. Then he moved to the farm, and they were unkind, but he was unkind first. He realized he wanted to learn how to read. He went to school. He went back to the farm to read to them. They weren't impressed. So next, he went to the library. I want to also point out that we're using our sequence and transition words. So first, next, last, then. There's a lot. Second, third, fourth, after, eventually, before. So we want to practice using those words when we explain. So after school, he went back to the farm. They were not impressed. Then he went to the library so he could practice more reading and get better and improve through effort. Finally, he went to the farm and he read out loud, and they were so impressed. And he stayed with them, and they became friends and read together. So I always say, when you're even watching a TV show, after the TV show, I want you to tell your parents what happened. First, what happened? Where were they? What were the characters doing? Next, what happened? Use those transition words to explain. After Wolf, we moved into our grammar packet. Excuse me. So we moved into week 4-5, third grade grammar. Very important. This is in the orange folder. It was a construction paper and had papers in it. This was one of the packets inside the orange folded paper. Turn to page 1. This is practice. Again, it's very important. In third grade, we need to be able to make complete sentences. Since we were not here the second half of last year, we really need to practice understanding what makes a complete sentence. So we talked about last week our subject and our predicate. Our subject is who the sentence is about, and the predicate is what is that subject doing. It's describing that subject. You need both. So our directions are read each word, read each group of words. Write yes if the group of words forms a sentence. Write no if it does not form a sentence. I also want them to identify the subject and the predicate. Okay, so number 1, I read a book about sea life. He said, yes, it's a complete sentence. We have a subject, I. What did I do? Read a book about sea life. That's our predicate. Number 2, the largest mammal is no. We struggled with, well, the largest mammal. Is that a subject or is that a predicate? We'll try to make up a sentence with it. The largest mammal runs really fast. Right? Runs really fast would be what that mammal is doing. So that's the predicate. So then our subject would be the largest mammal. It's usually a who or a what is our subject. Okay, so pause if you need. Finish for homework. All right. And then we moved on to race. So race is what our school will use in every single grade. So I don't know if second grade was able to hit race yet and go over it, but this sheet and this sheet, restating the question, were loose in the orange folded paper. It was just loose. So with race, we're only focusing on R right now, which is restate the question. This is really important. Should children have pets? Well, let's restate it. In my opinion, children should have pets. So that is an example. They didn't just say yes or no. They wrote a complete sentence with the question in their answer. So we did these in class. The rest are not for homework. We're going to finish it tomorrow. They needed to get up to here. So I'll just do one. What did John order? John ordered pizza. And I'm just making them, they can make up the answer. I don't care about the answer. I want a complete sentence with the subject to predicate. And they need to restate the question. Okay. Next, we move to math. And it's a little bit of a review because I want the students to have more practice with rounding and estimating. So we started the lesson with estimate about how many pieces of mints are in this bag. And these are for a different estimating, but I wrote it on the board. We had about 6, 8, 10, 15, and then I counted them. And we talked about reasonable. So you think, is it reasonable to say there are about 10 mints in here? Yes, because there are actually 15. We counted them. So saying there are 10 is reasonable because that's very close to 15. But would it be reasonable to say there are 100 mints in here? No, that's not reasonable. It doesn't make sense. Would it be reasonable to say there are only one? No, because there is clearly more than one, so that is not reasonable. So we talked about that. What is reasonable and not reasonable? What makes sense and what doesn't make sense? Then we moved on to the marbles. Oh, I have allergies. So we had a lot of different answers for our marbles. And we counted them. And when we got to some said 10, and a 10 is probably only about this many, and there's still so many more. So that's not reasonable. It's not a reasonable answer. So then we keep going. We cross off 10, not reasonable. Then some people said 30. Still not reasonable. There's still so many marbles left. There was 148, I believe. 148 marbles in here. So we talked about rounding what's reasonable. We could say about 100 can be reasonable, but saying 50 is not reasonable. That's not reasonable. 150, that's reasonable because there's 148 marbles in there. It's only 2 off. 160 is reasonable. Is it reasonable to say there's 1,000 in here? No, not reasonable. Okay. Then we moved on to flies. Counted them, had their guesses, and we got pretty close. There was 47 in here, and so some said 10. 10 is not reasonable because there's a lot more than 10. Some said 55. 55 is reasonable because it's close enough to 48. So we guessed first, they made their guesses, and then we went through after counting and deciding what number was reasonable and what number was not reasonable. Okay. I then read a couple pages from Let's Estimate. So I will put that in the chat and just stop after this page. It's only about 4 pages. I read stop after this page because the rest is beyond 3rd grade. It was on the 4th. And then we practiced in our Go Math book. So Go Math, chapter 1, page 15. We needed to practice more with estimating. So we practiced with just rounding. So we box the 6 because that's our tens, point to the 5. Is 5 less than 5 or greater than 5? Well, it is 5. And we talked last week that when it is 5, you round up. So your box number goes up by 1. Everything to the right turns to a 0. Then 23. Box the 2, point to the 3. 3 is less than 5 because the number we're comparing, our magic number, is 5. Since 3 is less than 5, our number stays the same. 2. Everything to the right turns to a 0. 20. We added it up. 0 plus 0 is 0. 7 plus 2 is 9. Don't worry about this. This was another example. Number 3, we talked about how if it doesn't tell you to round to the tens or the hundreds, because right here it says use rounding numbers to estimate the sum. Cross-compatible app. So you choose. If you choose to round 1 to the hundreds, you round both to the hundreds. If you choose to round to the tens, you round both to the tens. And they wanted to round to the hundreds. So you box the 4, you point to the 2. 2 is less than 5, so our box number stays the same. Everything to the right is a 0. So 400. 2, box the 2, hundreds place, point to the 1. 1 is less than 5, our 2 stays the same. Everything to the right turns to 0, so 200. Then we add 400 plus 200, we get 600. Their homework was just to do 5 and 6. I want to practice this more in class, so I just want to see what they can do, and then we will come back tomorrow and see these 2 problems. Their science has started today as well. That is on our Canvas page, and I will send out a video on how to access it. All right, thank you so much.